We talked about the Commanders yesterday. I talked about the Commanders of potentially having a 8-win season. Have been going 8-9 this year. The Commanders do have a fairly tough schedule this season. Playing the AFC North in general for everybody in the NFC East is going to be tough. Browns are good. Steelers are good. Ravens are great. Bengals are good. But the Commanders also play teams like the Buccaneers. They play teams like the Chicago Bears. They play teams like the Cowboys twice. They play teams like the Eagles twice, right? So we spoke to Michael. He had the Commanders around 7 wins. I have them around 8 wins. I could potentially see 9 wins. Jim right here says the Commanders will surprise some folks. John says 8-9 possible playoff push. We are speaking about the Commanders like they've been there, they've done that, like they haven't been a dumpster fire the last couple seasons. Guys, is there too much pressure on Jayden Daniels and the Washington Commanders going into the 2024 NFL season? Is there too much pressure on him? Is there too much pressure to push the ball down the field with Scary Terry? Is there too much pressure to hit Austin Eckler in the flats? Is it too much pressure to let Brian Robinson kind of run downhill all the time? Guys, the Washington Commanders are probably one of the dark horses in the NFC. As I do have them as an 8-win team, I could easily see 9 or possibly 10. Just like what John said here, possibly a playoff push. Hell, Jim Powell says they might even win the East. Is there too much pressure on the Washington Commanders right now? And listening to national media, NFL Channel, ESPN, CBS, Fox Sports, right, all that stuff, watching other shows like the Locked On the Commanders, there's some other Washington shows that I've watched from time to time. Most of these people are writing off this season. Most of these people that are paid to speak on the Washington Commanders are saying, expect 4 wins, expect 3 wins. 5 is their top, 6 is their top. So too much pressure? I don't think there's any pressure on the Commanders. I don't think there's any pressure on the Washington Commanders at all this season, and that is what's going to give them ability to win 8, 9, potentially 10 games, potentially make a playoff push. However, this hurts them in the long run. This hurts them in the long run because of the early success that they have in their rebuild mode. Why are the New York Giants so bad right now? Because of Brian Daboll's first-year success, making the playoffs, beating the Minnesota Vikings that first season. They're like, oh, maybe our team isn't so bad. Maybe Brian Daboll was the answer. If the Commanders had that same success like the Giants did Brian Daboll's first year, it's going to hurt them in the end. It's going to prolong the building of the future. Because Michael said they have 40-plus players on expiring contracts at the end of this season. They're going to want to bring back some of those old heads. Deontay Flower, Armstrong, Bobby Wagner, right? Derek Forrest. They're going to want to bring back some of those old heads. Say, hey, we had success. Why not have success the next year's, right? And it's going to come back and it's going to hurt them. So as they don't have any pressure on them this season, no pressure at all, they're going to succeed 7, 8, 9, potentially 10 wins, potentially a playoff push. It's going to hurt them in the end. So if you are a Washington fan, I know very few Washington fans, put pressure on your team. Put pressure on your team so they feel it. So maybe, just maybe, they're only a 5-win team this season. Maybe they're only a 6-win team this season. If you fail now, you'll be more successful in the years to come. If you're successful now, look for another longer drought for the Washington Commanders. John says, of course, there's a lot of pressure on Daniels. I think they pushed through a bunch of games, surprising some teams as well. This is the biggest problem with the Washington Commanders is their head coach of Dan Quinn. I don't have any faith in Dan Quinn at all. He was an excellent defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys when it was loosey-goosey. When the defense was terrible, he came in, he righted the ship, and they did well on games that they're supposed to win. On games like, he shits the bed. This year, Dan Quinn could have a lot of success. The Washington Commanders could have a lot of success with the new offensive coordinator, Cliff Kingsbury, right? Dan Quinn, new ownership, no pressure. They could win a lot of games. It's going to hurt them in the end. Jim Powell says they can only go up. They are and have been as down as it gets. Yes. Actually, if you think about it, Jim, just a couple years ago, Taylor Heinicke led them to the playoffs. This was the year that Tampa Bay and Tom Brady won the Super Bowl. Taylor Heinicke almost beat them. What year is that? Was that 2021? Was that 21? No, it had to been 19, right?